Good morning, everyone. Actually, good afternoon, everyone. Great to see you at this wonderful site. I want to thank Supervisor Rich Schaefer for offering this beautiful youth center. There's a lot of kids out there. They're enjoying the final days of summer. They got this great smile. Hate to tell them school's right around the corner. I don't want to ruin their fun today. But it is wonderful to be back here in this incredible community. And I'm so grateful to be joined by some true public servants, starting with our superintendent of the state police, who's joined us. You'll be hearing from Kevin Bruin momentarily. I want to thank him for his service. County Executive Steve Ballone. Steve, what we went through during that pandemic really defines the character of an individual. And your passion for doing what was right for your constituents, leaving no stone unturned, and we heard from you, if not daily, hourly, in terms of fighting for the protection of the health of your residents. And for that, I'm grateful for that and the countless other initiatives that we've worked on together. Let's give a great round of applause for our County Executive, Steve Ballone. Our Sheriff, Dr. Errol Toulon, I want to thank him for all his, putting on the uniform every day, wearing it proudly and letting people know that, we support our law enforcement and they do their jobs and we're there to thank them every chance we get. So thank you, Sheriff, for your public service as well. And someone who's got their hands on every day is the Commissioner of the Police Department. And I want to thank our Commissioner, Rodney Harrison, for what he does day in and day out to protect the people of this great county. So let's give him a round of applause as well. Monisha Henley, the Senior Director of State Government Affairs, Every Town for Gun Safety. And this has been a force of change, and change is happening. And I thank you and everyone who's been supporting Every Town for many years now for truly making a difference in an area that we all care deeply about, and that is our public safety. And I know our elected officials, our senators, our assemblymen will recognize. I want to have them just a round of applause for all of them, because they fight for you every single day in our state legislature. And it's great to be back here. I think this is my 300th plus trip out this way, who's counting? And I just want to say here, we're talking about something that's critically important, something that I care very deeply about, and that is keeping New Yorkers safe. And I will say, as we begin this conversation, we take the protection of every individual in our state, whether they're a resident or a visitor, we take that very seriously. And so it is heartbreaking to learn that within the last hour, a prominent individual, Salman Rushdie, was attacked on a stage in Western New York. Just before he was about to give a speech. He is alive. He has been transported, airlifted to safety. But here's an individual who has spent decades speaking truth to power, someone who's been out there unafraid, despite the threats that have followed him his entire adult life, it seems. And it happened at a site that is a place that's very familiar to me, a very tranquil rural community known as Chautauqua Institution, where the most preeminent speakers and thought leaders and politicians and justices and everyone come together to have the free expression of thought. So this is a place ideally suited for him to be able to speak, and that's what he was attempting to do just in the last hour before he was attacked. And I want to commend the state police. It was a state police officer who stood up and saved his life, protected him, as well as the moderator who was attacked as well. We're monitoring the situation, but he's getting the care he needs at a local hospital. We'll be giving more information on the identity of the perpetrator and the case that'll be brought in that part of the state. So I just wanted to share that with you because it hits right here. It hits all of us. But we are undeterred then. We are undeterred in our commitment to make sure that we call it out, we condemn what happened, we condemn all violence, and we want people to feel that freedom to speak and to write truth. And I'll continue to protect that every single day as my governor, as I'm your governor. So today we're here to talk about protecting people in another way. And those are our red flag laws. And we made significant changes, and I want to thank the legislature for being at the forefront of making changes to strengthen red flag laws. And for a long time, I'm not sure everybody knew what red flag laws were. What's a red flag? You put up a red flag. What does that mean? A red flag means something's out there. A flag has gone up. And maybe it's raised really high and it's real obvious, and maybe it's not. But there are still signs of danger. Something's not right that demand a response. And the laws allow people who are in positions of authority, law enforcement, to take steps to make sure that people who are in this category, showing signs that they could do harm to themselves or to others, are stopped and do not have guns in their possession. And that's what this is all about. And, we're in the middle of a nationwide crisis right now. We truly are. We truly are. One that's claiming far too many lives here in New York. And on May 14th, we just spoke about the southern part of Western New York, an area I know very well. What happened this morning. On May 14th, something happened right in the city of Buffalo, in the western part of our state. And that was something that was a compelling reminder of the vulnerability of our citizens, even those who are shopping in a grocery store, literally 10 minutes from where my husband and I live, 10 minutes car drive. We know this neighborhood well. And an 18-year-old who was able to walk into a store and buy an AR-15, go across the border of Pennsylvania, not far from where he lived, be able to buy a high-capacity magazine, upload that, travel 3 hours down the road to a place that he identified as having the largest black population within the closest driving range of him, and that's why he targeted this neighborhood. And I've been back many times. People are still afraid. They're afraid to go to the grocery store. The lives that are shattered, everyone from father of a 3-year-old out there getting cupcakes for the birthday, all the way up to an 86-year-old grandmother and the mother of our former police commissioner. So you leave that and you say, what more can we do? What more can we do? So the legislature acted quickly, and I commend them for being so responsive to our call for help at this time. And we signed a comprehensive nation-leading package that gave us here in the state of New York the toughest gun laws in America, and we made them even tougher. And so what did we do? We banned the sale of large capacity magazines. We made sure that the sale of body armor, this individual could have been stopped when they went in the store because they were shot by the security person. But they had body armor, the type of which you'd use on a battlefield. Ordinary citizens should not be able to purchase that. They can no longer do that in the state of New York. We also made sure that all these cases are reported, all incidents of violence, and sharing information that was not shared before is now in state and federal databases. And I also directed the Attorney General, who I just spoke with about this last night, to do even more, investigating social media platforms, where people are telegraphing what they're going to do. It is getting to be so obvious. I mean, just look what happened in Ohio with the FBI. An attack. This person didn't just think of this one day and walk in and do that. He telegraphed what he's going to do on social media platforms. So the information's out there. The intent is out there. And I've called upon, and will continue to do this, we've had meetings with the leaders of these social media platforms and saying, you have a responsibility to make sure that when your people notice this, and you need to have an early warning system, you need to have your own red flag system, that we know about it, law enforcement know it, so we can thwart these attacks. And so how we do that, in addition to what we did on banning AR-15s from teenagers buying them, many other things we've done, we also did strengthen our red flag laws, because this way we can keep deadly weapons out of the hands of those who are a threat to themselves or society. As I mentioned, the Buffalo shooter said what he would do. He fell through the cracks, and as we left there, determined to make meaningful changes, I signed an executive order almost immediately, and I required our state police, not an option, but a requirement, that they file a protection order whenever they have probable cause to believe that an individual is a threat to themselves or others. And on June 6th, I signed into state law that expanded it to all law enforcement agencies. So now, when the signs are there, they can immediately get guns out of the hands of these individuals. They do it temporarily at first. There's a judge involved, and then you determine whether or not that needs to be permanent. But the immediate risk, immediate situation is diffused. And the superintendent may mention this literally within a day or so of us signing this on a highway in Western New York. I don't want to keep throwing Western New York the focus of our attention, but Western New York, a driver was acting erratically, posed a threat, did some things that the very savvy, smart, trained state police officer saw some signs. They go back and find that he had a whole cache of weapons on him and his home. This is what we're talking about. We're talking about connecting the dots before something happens. I want to be in the business of preventing crimes more so than trying to solve crimes. A red flag allows us to do that. So we signed this 88 days ago, 88 days. It's kind of early to start saying, is it really working? You usually need, let's evaluate it in 6 months or a year. But we have such good news about the effectiveness of what our new enhanced red flag laws have done that I need to share them with you here today. Since we did this, the orders of protection filed by state police alone have increased nearly 94%. 94%. In those 88 days, over 184 orders of protection have been filed, and that's almost double. That's double the entire amount from last year alone. All of last year, 365 days, 95 were filed. In 88 days this year, we've had 184. That is extraordinary. That is a major, major step in the right direction. We're proud of that. And again, I thank law enforcement for now using this tool to protect our citizens. And because we have to be proactive about this. That's how we save lives. And I'm going to continue to thank law enforcement for protecting us every single day because they're out there making this happen. And why are we here in Suffolk County? Because you're doing it the best. You truly are. You've taken this seriously. You say, we have a tool here we can use. We can do this to protect our citizens. And when red flag laws first came into effect, they led New York. They still lead New York using this life-saving tool to keep guns out of the hands of individuals who will do harm to themselves. And so, since May 16th, we enhanced the ability of law enforcement to take action. Over 114 orders of protection served in Suffolk County alone. That's a 75% increase over all of last year as well. So I want to thank them for the 90% increase, literally just from June to July. I mean, you're taking this, thank you, thank you. And they're averaging over 14 a week. Now, this is concerning. I'm glad they're on top of this. But that means that every single week in Suffolk County alone, there's 14 individuals who've come to the attention of law enforcement that they could be dangerous, they have guns, and the guns need to be taken out of their hands. So I look forward to getting to the day when we don't have that phenomenon. We're down to zero because people are not in this situation. But until that time, we're going to make sure that we are making Long Islanders and all New Yorkers safe. But we're not done with that. That's not the only part of our comprehensive strategy I want to mention to you today. I'm also here today to announce that New York State's Division of Criminal Justice Services is partnering with every town to provide training on protection orders, because there's a lot of information we're gleaning, and certainly Suffolk County knows what to look for. You know how to make this successful. So on August 24th, every town will be teaming up with our law enforcement professionals across the state to do training. It'll be available to all law enforcement agencies across the entire state of New York. We're also working with the Municipal Police Training Council to have a model law, the ERPO law they call it, the Extreme Risk Protection Order, which will be adopted later this year. So we're going to keep training law enforcement. I'll be announcing something else later because I said not only do I want a training module and video training and different ways we can train the trainer for law enforcement, also in our schools. I want to make sure that all the teachers, administrators, parents, guidance counselors, that they know what their rights are. Because that's how we protect the little kids playing out here today. That's how we protect them. We see those signs early, we stop it. That's what we do. And so we're continuing. superintendent knows that last January, I said, what else can we do to get illegal guns out of the hands of people who will use them to harm? And we launched the first in the nation consortium of 9 states, and including NYPD and Boston PD and all the states around, and asked them to come together and to work for the first time in history, work as one team, not competitive, but the people who are trafficking guns, they're coming through these states, and somebody's seeing something somewhere, and that intelligence should not stop at their state border. Let's share that information. Let's bring it together. And the state police here in New York is leading that. So, as a result of that, launched in January, we've seen a 104% increase in gun seizures by New York State law enforcement this year. That's over 6,000 gun seizures since last time. So that's extraordinary. That's how we're making a difference. And it's also, we realize it's not enough to just have the toughest laws in the books. We also have to double down on other solutions, and that is to support our law enforcement, as I've said a number of times. We've dramatically increased our investments into what we do at the state police level, ramping up our surveillance of domestic terrorism activities. I just launched a meeting on that a couple days ago on training. That's going on, but also investing in programs. We have $10 million out there to go to local governments to stand up these domestic terrorism watch centers. And so we're going to continue funding at that level. Also, the community engagement. We know that the violence disruptors, sometimes it's former people who've been incarcerated, who made the wrong decisions at an earlier point in their lives. They're out there now as part of our team, part of our army, to stop the specter of gun violence. So we've tripled the amount of investment into those programs as well. And as you know, we had a little Supreme Court situation at the end of June. We'll talk about abortion another day, because that was a real hit to all of us in this country, stripping away rights that women had taken for granted my entire adult life, that my granddaughter now no longer has. So we're focused on those issues. But just to add real insult to injury, the Supreme Court overturned a law we've had on the books for 108 years that said that state government, a governor, can protect her citizens from people being able to go anywhere they want with a concealed gun. Trains, schools, houses of worship, or huge arenas, Islanders games. So we said no, and the legislature, I thank you again, you came back, said the work is not finished, even though the session may have been, and we called back for an extraordinary session. And now what we're doing, and we're developing the regulations. We'll be announcing them on August 31st because they go into effect on September 1st. We've been having countless meetings with our law enforcement team to get this right. We have to get this right. And we've established our policy on restricting weapons in sensitive places. We're defining what sensitive places are. And all of you look like you have a lot of common sense. There'll be common sense places where you would say, I don't think someone should have a gun here. So we're using standards that'll be legally sustainable. We're making sure of that. But there'll be a lot of places where you'll say, yeah, I understand that. That makes sense to me. And including all the places I mentioned and others. So that information's coming out. Also, we enhanced our safe storage. I mean, with a lot of guns get in the hands of children. A lot of lives are lost that way. And whether you're transporting in a vehicle or at home, we now want people to have them required to be safely stored. Also, background checks for ammunition purchases. Makes sense, doesn't it? Makes sense. Let's find out who's purchasing the weapons, the ammunition that is filling our weapons, as well as banning the body armor. So, I could go on a long time. But today we focus on the success, the red flag law. It's working. It's working best here in Suffolk County. I want to put a spotlight on your efforts here, county executive and your entire team, and the sheriff and the police commissioner. I want to spotlight that as a model for the rest of the state. We're proud of that. But I'm also here to say our work is not done. Our work is not done. And I look at Linda Shulman and Michael and everyone else who've been on this fight a long time, and I thank you for participating here today. Our fight is not over. Our fight is not over. So thank you, everyone. And with that, let you hear from our commissioner, our superintendent, Kevin Bruin, who's having to deal with a lot what's happening in the western part of the state. But I thank you for being here and helping spearhead so many of these really important initiatives that I'm proud of. I'm going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing our state police to be a model for the nation in terms of how we deal with the specter of gun violence, and you're the leader. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. Kevin Bruin, Superintendent. I have the honor of being the Superintendent of the New York State Police. From day one, the governor has been laser focused on this issue, the broad range of issues of the issue of gun violence. She's made it extremely plain to me what she wants done. She gets to the point very quickly and says, do it, fix it, and do it now. And quite frankly, in the state police, we like that sort of clarity. It pushes out some distractions and we get right to business. She's provided invaluable support from a leadership point of view, but also financial and legislative to allow us to do this. We've stood up a gun trafficking interdiction unit inside of my statewide investigative unit called Special Investigations Unit. They're top flight investigators and a great team, and they've gotten to work. And last week, the governor was able to highlight one of their early successes, where in one case, we recovered 30 weapons, and innumerable assault weapons, and personally manufactured firearms. We call them ghost guns, or they're known as ghost guns. And that was those guns were being trafficked. They were not just somebody's collection. They were being obtained with the purpose of getting them into the hands of people who wanted to do bad things with them. So that support has been incredibly valuable. And also the support we received from the governor and the way she's highlighted the Interstate Gun Consortium, where we've brought in partners from Canada, New York State Police in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, NYPD, ATF, and gotten together and really had very hardcore discussions about where guns come from, how are they trafficked, who's doing it, and sharing ideas on how we've done it. And it is true that if you're willing to not take credit for everything, you can accomplish a lot very quickly. We have had cases. We've had cases where the NYPD has developed information, given it to my troopers. My troopers have gone into another state, observed activity, got more information, and turned that over to the New Jersey State Police, who were then able to arrest organized crime figures with a gun manufacturing operation in their basement. That didn't go to a state police credit. It wasn't NYPD credit. It was a credit to the whole team effort. Just in the last few days, with the cooperation of the ATF, troopers have taken out, literally the last few days, 25 personally manufactured these ghost guns right off the streets. It's not stopping, and neither are we. We've also done something internally to the state police, in the state police, is we've told every trooper that you need to be sensitive in the course of your duties, that you may come across evidence or intelligence that there's a gun trafficking element happening in front of you. It may not be perfectly obvious. We've given them the tools to do it, to recognize the signs, and more importantly, we've given them a way to report that information up to that unit inside of SIU, that GTIU group that can take that, aggregate that information, and develop more cases out of it. So it's understood that it is every trooper's job to do this and to be on the lookout for this sort of thing. The last thing is we've just had great success with the EPRO, the red flag thing. It's not possible for me to tell you a specific case of something that didn't happen because we did this. But I know in my heart of hearts, we have stopped specific tragedies from happening because we took action, because somebody was decompensating, because somebody was saying they were going to kill themselves or other people, and they went out and they got those guns. And it's appropriate that we are doing it here in Suffolk County. Suffolk County has been a leader in this from the very beginning, and we in the state police value the relationships we have in Suffolk County, both with law enforcement and community partners. The state police aren't doing this alone. Suffolk County Police Department, the Suffolk County Sheriff Department, ATF, nobody's doing it alone. It has to take complete cooperation and a dedication. It's not just a law enforcement solution, it's a community solution as well, and we depend on that. And we want to replicate the great relationships that we have in Suffolk County across the state and get a handle on this problem. Thank you very much, Governor.
Please welcome to the podium County Executive Steve Malone.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for being here. And of course, it's a great privilege to be able to welcome the governor back to Long Island, to Suffolk County. And I've had the occasion to do that many times over the years because she has been here so often. And we have always appreciated the governor's support, her leadership, and her commitment to Long Island, her commitment to the issues that are so important to us here, because in many ways they are unique. And she understands those and really is committed to Long Island. But this is particularly special for me because I'm not just welcoming her back to Long Island or Suffolk County, I'm welcoming her today, Governor, to my hometown. I grew up here in North Babylon, and the middle school I went to is right across the street. I played Little League in this park, not very well, by the way. And this youth center we built together when I was town supervisor here, and it's named for one of our great youth leaders here, Tony Taddy, now. So, Governor, it's personal for me today to welcome you back, of course, to Suffolk County, but here to my hometown, for an issue that is of the greatest importance to all of us, to everyone here, all across the country, the scourge of gun violence that is and has been occurring. And it is a personal issue, it's a raw issue, and it's an emotional issue, certainly first and foremost to the families who have been directly impacted by this devastating gun violence. And the governor mentioned Linda Beagle-Schulman and Michael Schulman and their advocacy, and I thank you for everything that you've done. But I think it's affected all of us personally, as we've watched on our televisions and on our smartphones the images of one mass shooting after another, the images of gun violence happening on a daily basis. And the level of despair, I think, for all of us in this notion that seemingly there's nothing we can do to respond to this or stop this, just continued to grow incident after incident. And I think it reached a peak here. It rose to new heights. Even, by the way, I was talking to the governor earlier and she was marking how wonderful it is to see the kids here in this park, and of course they are going to have to go back to school soon. But even in the face of elementary school children being slaughtered, we couldn't seem to muster the fortitude to do something. And here, I think in New York, but really all across the country, as the governor mentioned, this more than 100-year-old law is overturned by the Supreme Court, that level of despair at a peak. And in that moment, here and in the country, it was Governor Hochul that led, that stepped forward and provided comfort to our state and to people all across this country that we can do something. And that's exactly what she has done here in New York and has shown the rest of the country what we need to do. And I think on this issue that we're talking about here today, the ERPOs, the red flag law, Governor issues an executive order, as she mentioned. We modeled the executive order we adopted here after your executive order, Governor, and that has helped us to be even more aggressive in doing what we must to prevent death from happening, to prevent innocent lives from being lost. And that's what this is about. The superintendent said it. We don't know how many lives have been saved, but I guarantee you lives have been saved because of what you have done, Governor Hochul. And we are so grateful to you for that. And Governor, I want to thank you as well on behalf of all of us in the county. The superintendent spoke about it, but the partnership with the New York State Police is absolutely incredible and has never been stronger under your leadership. And we are grateful for that because it allows us to do so many things in terms of public safety in our community here. So we thank you for your leadership on that as well. I want to thank my colleagues, of course, and in the State Senate and the Assembly for the work they've done, as the Governor mentioned, supporting all of these gun safety initiatives and for all that you do for us on Long Island here. I want to thank my colleagues, Commissioner Rodney Harrison and the men and women in the Suffolk County Police Department for the work they do each and every day here helping to keep us safe. Thank you very much, Commissioner. To our Sheriff, Errol Toulon. Dr. Toulon, thank you very much for the great work that you do and your team of deputy sheriffs. Of course, our district attorney, Ray Tierney. This is an all-out effort in law enforcement here. We are all committed to this across party lines. This is a human issue. We want to make sure, and I can guarantee you this, Governor, we're going to continue to be as aggressive as we can in making sure that anyone who is a danger to themselves or to others is not going to have a gun in their hands. We are going to continue to do everything we can to save lives, and we have that ability to do that because of your leadership, Governor. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. And now I'd like to bring up our Sheriff, Dr. Errol Toulon.
Good afternoon, and I would like to thank Governor Hochul not only for having me here, but pushing this initiative is so important to our communities, but more importantly, you're making sure that the men and women in law enforcement are safe in carrying out these duties every single day. So on behalf of the men and women in law enforcement, thank you for everything. To repeat what the governor has said, the Suffolk County has the unique distinction of being the front runner of ERPOs in the entire state. Senseless shootings like the one in Buffalo last spring are even more heartbreaking when we know that they may have been prevented, and when reported correctly, ERPOs can help a tragedy from occurring. Our county's success in ERPOs is due to our interdepartmental cooperation with all of our stakeholders, the county executive leading the way with the New York State Police, the Suffolk County Police Department, the District Attorney's Office, and of course the Suffolk County Sheriff's Office that's entrusted in carrying out these duties every single day. As additional changes come our way, we continue to work together to make sure that the process is streamlined and we remain in step to keep both our communities and our staff safe. Our deputy sheriffs are on the front line serving these orders and removing weapons from homes and subjects they know little about every single day. A couple of days ago, up to 13 in one day we had to remove. Multiple times a day, they are walking into high-risk situations to execute these orders and prevent people who have been deemed at risk from hurting themselves or others. And as this demand has increased in the past few weeks, more specifically last month, we saw a 250% increase in ERPOs. I commend the men and women of my department, as well as the Suffolk County Police Department, for maintaining the quality of work while keeping with this uptick. It's not an easy task, but has proven to be an important one. In May, our deputies potentially thwarted a mass tragedy when they discovered an arsenal of illegal weapons and drugs while executing an ERPO. They discovered a disturbing amount of ghost guns, suppressors, high-capacity magazines, thousands of rounds of ammunition, and a substantial amount of drugs. Let's face it, there's no good reason to have that amount of weapons on any one person. And we stand ready to respond to every case like that to prevent more of our friends, family, neighbors, sisters, and brothers from becoming victims. Once again, thank you very much, Governor, for your support of law enforcement and recognizing the hard and important work that we do every single day.
Please welcome Police Commissioner Rodney Harrison.
So, good afternoon. I think we can all agree that policing is not easy. And there's certain layers that you have to have in place in order to have success. You have to have that community relationship, to build that public trust. You have to get the right men and women that want to do this noble profession. And you also need elected officials, lawmakers, that are willing to take that challenge and put things in place that are going to make communities safe. That's why this red flag law is a game changer. Being able to give officers the opportunity to remove guns from those individuals that may want to hurt themselves or others is extremely, extremely important. And I've been there, 30 years in law enforcement, ladies and gentlemen, 30 years in the New York City Police Department. I've been there where I saw DeVell Gardner, one-year-old child, sitting in his stroller being shot. I was there in the Bronx when Brandon Hendricks, who was getting a scholarship to play basketball at St. John's, was killed. I was there for Amir Griffin, who was playing basketball. He actually went to the same high school I went to and was killed on a basketball court right in the middle of a gang fight. It's things like this, it's laws like this that will make a difference. So I want to thank the governor for what you're doing. This is not lip service. You are taking a humongous step forward in regarding protecting the state. I want to thank the county executive. You know, you heard a lot of things about Suffolk County being the best in the state. There's a reason why that is. Because of the support that this man gives us. Sir, I want to thank you for your leadership and what you do for the men and women in Suffolk County Police Department. We're not there yet. We still have a lot more work to do. But as long as we work together, community, law enforcement, elected officials, we can get our streets back. Thank you very much.
Please welcome to the podium, Monisha Henley.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Governor Hochul, for having me here today. My name is Monisha Henley. I'm the Senior Director of State Government Affairs at Everytown for Gun Safety. I'm also a gun violence survivor. My sophomore year in college, I was attending a party, and I heard what I thought were firecrackers, but then I heard screams. That day, I lost a friend, and 5 of my classmates were shot. This is something that nobody should have to live with, which is why I'm so proud to live in New York, a state that has made life-saving gains that we have all had a hand in accomplishing. From gun sense lawmakers, to volunteers, to survivors, to organizers, to law enforcement. Together, we have built New York's legacy as a national leader on gun violence prevention and created safer communities. 3 months ago, a tragedy struck a grocery store in Buffalo when an armed white supremacist arrived in an act of terror and hate, shot and killed 10 Black people. Buffalo still bears the scars of that tragedy. And New Yorkers are reminded once again of the horrible pain and tragedy of the loss that gun violence creates, especially when we know it's preventable. A history of warning signs followed the shooter into the grocery store that day. Warning signs that had been reported may have stopped that tragedy. But what followed that shooting was a time not only for mourning, but a time for action. After the shooting in Buffalo, Governor Hochul, along with the legislators, helped to ensure that nothing like this could happen again. She and our state leaders didn't hesitate. They got to work and made smart, strategic, life-saving changes. They improved our red flag law, and these changes will make that law more accessible, and as you've already heard, they're working. Red flag laws are the bedrock of gun safety policy that keeps guns out of the hands of individuals in crisis and keeps our loved ones and family members safe and protects communities across New York State. We're grateful to Governor Hochul for the continued partnership with Everytown. And we're also thankful to the legislatures, the state agencies, the county commissioners for their commitment to raising awareness around red flag laws. We look forward to supporting these ongoing efforts to ensure these laws are effective. There is more work to be done, but this is an important milestone, one that shows that common sense gun safety measures work, and we can end gun violence. Thank you.